All right, so the logical conclusion of Chapter 17, we talked about big business, we talked about immigrants, so now we talk about labor. All right, so trade unions. So these are workers' organizations that are going to try and negotiate directly with the employers for the benefits of the workers. This is an alternative to seeking assistance from politicians in work-labor disputes. At that time, striking workers faced being blacklisted or basically not hired because of action against employers. Today, it's illegal. If you are peacefully protesting, that's your right. You can strike, etc., unless you've, of course, signed a no-strike agreement. But, so, could do that. Today, if you were to strike, you were not going to get repercussion. Generally, you'd have talks and agreements and then you go back to work because there are laws against all that now. All right, an agrarian are farmers' advocates, people who want to work on the benefit of farmers. They're going to argue against high tariffs because of their negative impact on rural farm families. Farmers criticize the railroads, large corporations, and Eastern banks. 1867, they're going to focus on the cooperation and mutual aid among farmers, basically working together to try and get the best deals and things like that. They also advocated political action, building independent local parties that ran on anti-corporate platforms. So they're going to have a lot of problem with making enough money and things like that. Farmers always kind of get the short end of the stick. During the 1870s Depression, the Greenback Labor Party is forged as a national political movement by Grangers. Grangers, again, related to the farmers. They are labor advocates and local working men's parties. They protested convict labor and the end of Reconstruction. They both want both of those things. They advocated the protection of the individual man's vote. They want an 8-hour workday and an increase in the amount of money in circulation to stimulate the economy. It's subscribed to the ideal of producerism. They are critical of middle management and advance the causes of those who labored with their hands. They're going to radicalize thousands of farmers, and this will eventually move into the People's Party, which we'll talk about populism, basically, which we'll talk about probably in the next chapter. Maybe it's either chapter 18 or 19. I can't remember right now, but it'll morph into that eventually. All right, so the Knights of Labor. They are founded in 1869 as a secret society in Philadelphia. It is led by Terence Powderly. He participates in the Greenback Party movement. He wants factories to be run by employees. So this is kind of a very socialist idea that kind of everybody shares the wealth, essentially. He practices open membership, so the Knights of Labor is a very inclusive group. And we'll talk about a different group at some point, which is a very exclusive group. I don't know if it's in this. Oh, yeah, the American Federation of Labor. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Knights of Labor, very inclusive, so remember that. They advocate temperance, so no drinking, included skilled craftsmen, domestic workers, textile workers. They hired Leonora Berry as a full-time organizer of working women. So they're going to kind of let everybody in. They will let minorities in. They will let women in. So it'll be a very open-minded labor party or group, Knights of Labor. The Knights are successful with grassroots and spontaneous strikes. In 1886, there's a protest at the McCormick Reaper Works in Chicago, which is going to lead to violence. Anarchism, revolutionary advocacy of a stateless society. So basically this violence is going to lead to anarchism, no government. May 4th, 1886, they strike at Haymarket Square, and that becomes violent and damages the public image of the labor movement. Employers are going to break the strikes with mass arrests. They're going to tie up the Knights in expensive court proceedings and force workers to sign contracts pledging not to join labor organizations. Again, that's illegal today, so if there are labor organizations available, you cannot keep people from joining them. That is against the law. Okay, so the Farmers Alliance is a rural movement founded in Texas in the 1870s. It is the largest farm-based political movement in United States history. They advocated cooperative stores and exchanges to remove middlemen from sales. Texas Farmers Alliance proposed federal price support systems for farm products. The federal government would hold crops in public warehouses and issue loans on their value until they could be profitably sold. The alliance cooperated with the Knights of Labor, seeking to use rural voters' substantial clout on behalf of urban workers who shared their vision. So basically, working together. The Interstate Commerce Commission was put into place to investigate interstate shipping, forcing railroads to make their rates public and suing over unreasonable raises. Its final form represented a compromise between farmer labor advocates and those sympathetic to big business. Their power, however, is eroded over time by Supreme Court rulings. So the Interstate Commerce Commission is designed by the government, but there's no enforcement of it. And with the Supreme Court ruling against things and whatnot, it's going to cause some problems. So it's not going to be super helpful. So real reform does not really happen until the 1900s, but there'll be some attempts at it prior to that to help people with rising costs and things like that. All right, this is Samuel Gompers here. So after the Haymarket Square incidents, you have some Knights of Labor workers who are going to join together to form the American Federation of Labor. Gompers is a Dutch Jewish cigar maker, and he is going to lead the organization until 1924. They demanded that workers earn greater share of corporate profit. Gompers is going to hammer out a doctrine that he called pure and simple unionism. Pure, of course, refers to the membership strictly limited to workers, organized by craft and occupation with no reliance on outside advisors. The simple is going to refer to their goals. Only those that immediately benefited workers, so better wages, hours, and working conditions. That is what all labor unions strive for then, 50 years ago, and today. Better wages, better hours, better working conditions. Pure and simple unionists distrusted politics and advocated collective bargaining. The membership is going to grow to more than 2 million by 1904. It is a very exclusive organization. It's only going to accept white men, so they are not inclusive of women or blacks. All right, so that is going to bring us to the end of Chapter 17. Like I said, this is our initial bit of information that will be on the STAR test. Also, of course, on your AP test, it is possible to be there. And we are going to spend some time talking about our big business guys over several class periods. So I hope you look forward to it. I always do. I think they're quite fascinating people to learn about. So I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, and I will see or speak to you very soon. Bye.